Hi there, my name is Tim Kraus with Cornerstone CPA, and have you received a letter from a company called Conserve saying you owe taxes to the IRS? Well, a few of my clients have in the past, and we definitely had a few questions about that, and here's kind of what we learned and some of the things that we have now done with this situation. So Conserve, there's a few other ones too, but Conserve is an actual private debt collector for the IRS. So let's say you owed some taxes for a while and you haven't paid them for whatever reason. If it goes a certain amount of time, the IRS will actually transfer that debt, the collection piece of it anyways, to one of these debt collectors. I don't have any experience. I haven't messed with CBE Group, Coastal, Professionals Inc. We have dealt with Conserve a few times. We do bookkeeping, tax planning for businesses and individuals. We don't do IRS negotiations. That's actually a different specialty. We do have a referral source for that we send people out to. That's if you owe like tens, 20s, 30s, $100,000 plus to the IRS. But we do help our clients, especially our bookkeeping clients, with some of these issues, at least help walk them through the process. So is Conserve a legitimate debt collector for the IRS? Yes. Now you never pay Conserve directly. With the negotiations, you actually negotiate with the IRS as well. So here is what the Conserve website actually looks like, but Conserve will send you letters and they will call you and all that fun stuff. So recently I had a conversation with one of our clients who got some letters from Conserve about some taxes during the COVID era, and for me to be able to talk to the actual Conserve with them, we actually had to all be on the phone together. They had to go through a verification process for their ownership of the entity, and then they actually had to then do kind of a verification process for me and give me permission as someone to be able to talk to them and help them out. So once that was through, which was kind of annoying, but once that was through, the lady on the other phone or the other line pointed us in the direction of this form, the form 843. She pointed out a few things in particular on this form that we needed to hit on, and that is really this number 2 question. Obviously, you have to put all your information up above for who you are, or for what entity or what person. Basically, who did Conserve send the letter to? And then the amount to be refunded. So with this amount, there was 3 or 4 different tax returns, some employment ones, some federal ones that had issues that weren't filed and that had back taxes on them. But the tax amount was, X amount of dollars, a couple $1,000s. But the penalty was way above that, because when you don't pay, there is, depends on the form, but there's oftentimes a failure to file penalty. There's also then the interest that gets accrued on top of the original amount that you owe. It doesn't go away. Just because you're not paying it today, it's actually getting worse and worse and worse every day. I mean, for businesses and personals, if you don't file your tax return, even past if you don't file your tax return, it's 5% additional on how much you owe per month, up to 25%, not even counting the interest that gets accrued every single month moving forward. So it's not good. It doesn't just go away. Just because you haven't paid taxes in 3 or 5 years doesn't mean the IRS isn't keeping track, because they are. So an important thing she pointed out here was that in the amount to be refunded is that we just request the amount to be refunded as the penalty. There was a certain amount, how much was the tax they actually owed, and then there was the penalty above that. And then we just requested that for the penalty. And then you choose your type. If it's 940, 941, 944, it'll be employment. You can see if it's a state, gift, excise tax, or income tax. This is going to be your 1040s, 1065s, 1120s, 1120s. And then if there is a IRC code that is pertinent to it, you put it in here. And then what type of return it is. The big piece here is going to be the explanation. For my client here, this was during COVID, so that's going to be their explanation, and we're going to turn it in then to the IRS and see what happens. And down here below is if you are a paid preparer, which we are at Cornerstone. We put our information down here, client signs here, and then we're going to send that in. I've also talked to Conserve before when the potential client didn't have the ability to pay. Essentially, this one has the ability, they just want to get rid of the penalties. The other one doesn't have the ability to pay, and for that they recommended that we fill out the form 636B. And this form is large. 30 plus pages long, 32 pages. Yep, it is a large form. Now, I do know people, especially after the 2008 crash, who filled out this form and had a large IRS tax bill, and the IRS, at least back then, was very willing to set up a payment plan. I think some people paid like 20, 30 bucks a month for a super long time, but they were able to set up a payment plan with the IRS to be able to actually pay off this tax and to lower some penalties. But yeah, we're not going to go over this form here. There is a lot to this form, but essentially you're going to state your case to the IRS. You know, like maybe life happened and you are just in a really rough spot. This is where you're going to lay it all out. Interesting thing with Conserve is every time I've talked to Conserve, they've never had the negotiations where you actually go to them. It's always you go to the IRS, or you fill out an IRS form, send it to the IRS, and then the IRS then decides if they're going to make an adjustment, and then that goes, and then basically you would show owing less on Conserve. Again, you'd never pay Conserve or one of the debt collectors. You always pay the IRS directly. But yeah, those are my few times I've dealt with Conserve. There is a site here, options for taxpayers who can't pay their bill, which goes over a lot of the same stuff here that we just went over. But long story short, you are going to have, yeah, here's more penalty relief stuff, which again goes over all the different penalties that are eligible for relief. But long story short, you're not going to get away from the IRS in this. They're going to go after you, and then Conserve is going to go after you, and if it goes too far, actually they can go after your assets, your property. We've also had people who've gotten letters that, hey, if you don't pay this, then the IRS is going to take your rights to a certain property. But usually we're able to talk those through, and we've had too many times where it's been a 944, 941 issue, and payroll is just paid in the wrong bucket, and we got to get that fixed. Anyways, I digress. So that is Conserve. It is a legitimate debt collector with the IRS, and yeah, I wish you the best dealing with those sort of issues. This is Tim with Cornerstone CPA. If you'd like to check out any of our other videos, please do so. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.